Continuing with our discussion of reading interventions, we ask, how is fluency measured? Almost as important as teaching and practicing fluency is measuring it. There are useful guidelines to help you judge a child's fluency relative to others his age. For children in lower grades, the expected fluency rates for oral reading of passages are, as you can see here, spring of first grade, 40 to 60 correct words per minute. Spring of second grade, 80 to 100 correct words per minute. Spring of third grade, and you can see how it's going up, 100 to 120 correct words per minute. And in fourth grade and above, 120 to 180 correct words per minute. These rates are approximations. Both Ames-Webb and Dibble's Next have taken the next step and set specific thresholds for oral fluency rates in the early grades. As important as measuring a child's fluency rate is tracking his improvement on a simple graph, at least weekly, as he continues to practice. Both Ames-Webb and Dibble's Next are very useful in monitoring progress. Keep in mind, too, that a child's rate of reading growth follows a distinct pattern, and this is very important. Growth is greatest in the early school years and diminishes with each succeeding grade. Growth is most often at its maximum at the beginning of each school year and tapers off towards spring. All children do not respond in exactly the same manner to a program. Most important is the trajectory. A relatively flat line indicating little progress loudly proclaims the need for change, just as a steep upward incline proudly trumpets progress. In reading about fluency here and elsewhere, rate and speed of reading are frequently mentioned. These are important parameters, but I cannot emphasize enough that you must remember that the most critical factor in fluency is understanding, getting to the meaning of what has just been read. This is what is inferred by the word prosody in the definition of fluency. When you listen to a child practice aloud, he should be reading with prosody. Inflection, speed, and tone reflecting the meaning of what he has read. His reading should not be flat or monotonic, as if he were reading an unknown language. If it is, he is not reading fluently. When a child is practicing reading aloud, listen carefully for intonation and ask him relative questions to help assure he is reading fluently with meaning. What is the best approach to individualized instruction for a dyslexic child? Children who are dyslexic require intense instruction in reading. As the National Reading Panel noticed, this translates into small groups, anywhere from 4 to 5 students, to individualize 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 instruction. It is clear that if a student is in a larger group, she is rarely called on, perhaps once during a 45-minute period, if at all. When not called upon, the struggling reader begins to disconnect from the group's goings-on because they are too difficult to follow, and she spends much of the time staring out the window or getting into trouble. Feedback and guidance are very important. Whether the child is reading with his teacher or parent. Ideally, the teacher models reading for the child and then provides feedback and guidance as the student rereads the selection aloud. Finally, the child's reading skills should be assessed both by informal teacher or parent observation and by more formal measures such as Ames Webb or Dibbles, and you can find these in Overcoming Dyslexia, second edition, on pages 291 and 292. In Overcoming Dyslexia, second edition, there are a large number of helpful recommendations for what you can do with your child at home. There are many examples of very important and common rules for deciphering words, which ensure that your child is exposed to really effective practices in reading. These include learning the most useful rules, such as the secret of the silent E rule, saying C's when you pronounce C as a soft C, as in scent, or a hard C, as in cup, taking apart compound words, two consonants surrounded by two vowels, such as in the word magnet. In addition, there are lists of prefixes, suffixes, and word roots, which represent meaningful parts of words.